What's up everyone, Thralls Belli here once again. I'm the Croc Nick and I have some more underrated albums for you. And this one is pretty interesting because this was actually a suggestion from you guys. I don't specifically remember who, but I remember a lot of people suggesting after the underrated blackened death metal, blackened thrash metal, that they would like some more underrated blackened subgenres. And I decided that's a pretty damn good idea because there's a lot of other blackened subgenres out there. Now, this one I just kind of varied up. So this is just gonna be like blackened fusions in general, but I can definitely tell you there is going to be blackened crust, hardcore, sludge metal, and some, I guess, oddities in here. I really love black metal as a sort of spice in metal. Like, I love black metal, I think it's great, but when black metal is added to other stuff that I like black death metal, thrash metal, and so on, I think it becomes a lot more creepy and a lot more sinister. And I really love hearing all those elements brought into all those styles because, I don't know, it just makes it that much more heavy. There's literally no better way to make your metal sound more evil than to add just a dash of black metal to it. And that is what a lot of these bands did here. So I have 10 really interesting fusions for black metal, and let's get into it. Vole, Deeper Than Sky. This is the second album from this, let's see, blackened, that's obviously the first part, heavy metal, crust punk, progressive metal, and thrash metal. This is quite possibly the most odd fusion on this entire thing, and the lineup on here is pretty damn impressive too. You have Mike Scheidt, I don't know how to say his last name properly, from Yob. Awesome guitarist, but he's only doing vocals on here. Aesop Decker, formerly of Agalloch, and John Cobbett and Sigrid Shiai, I don't know how to say your last name, I'm sorry, both from Hammers of Misfortune. And holy shit, this is one of the craziest blackened fusions ever. Now, black metal is kind of all over the place, but I mean, various songs will take over like a different sound on here. For example, the opening track, The Desolate Damned, is primarily a heavy metal song with Mike doing some really high register singing and doing a really good job at it. And then the next song, 3 AM, is like blackened crust punk. Like, it has like an almost Bad Brains feel except with black metal in it. But then it also adds organs to it, so it kind of gives it like a Deep Purple like feel. There's a lot of stuff going on in this album, and I kind of get the whole prog thing. The prog side really kind of leans closely to Hammers of Misfortune, which that is actually one of my favorite prog bands here lately, just in terms of all the different stuff they bring in. Plus it has a very classic sound, and they kind of bring it into this too. Pretty much the songwriting here is insane, but when they go like full tilt towards the black metal side and really get heavy, especially the song Red Chaos, which is just heavier than hell, loaded with dynamics. The songs are generally a little bit longer, so you get a lot of stuff in these, and this is where you hear Mike really bring in some big blackened shrieks, and you can hear the dissonant tremolo come in there, and the atmosphere can change from song to song. Hell, there's a song in here called Piano, led by a piano, and it almost sounds like some twisted vaudeville act or something like that, but with like sort of punk and heavy metal behind it. This is easily, in terms of this list, the weirdest black metal fusion on here. And it's kind of fused with so many other things, but I figured black metal is kind of universal on almost all these tracks, whereas like the other elements were kind of from song to song, so this is kind of a binding agent with the blackenedness. But yeah, I strongly recommend this. This is definitely for fans of Voivod. It kind of has that Voivod weirdness to it, and it's just a fun, weird release. It's almost kind of unpredictable as to where it's going to go, and I think that makes it that much more of a fun listen. Now, this is their most recent album. It did come out in 2015, so it has been a while since they've come out with anything new, but these guys are all pretty much perpetually busy. Mike's definitely got all things Yob going on, and John is still doing Hammers of Misfortune as well as Sigrid, I believe. So yeah, eventually they're going to get back together. They're still listed as active, and I'm hoping for a possibly even weirder follow-up to this. So yeah, if you have never jammed this band and you're looking for something weird and blackened, this right here, check it out. Hessian A.D Manegarmr, I think that's how you pronounce that. Anyway, this is the lone full length from this Belgian blackened crust / hardcore band. Features members of Amen-Ra and Wajdude. I don't know how to say that band's name, but they are part of the Church of Ra collective that also includes Oathbreaker, and there's probably another band I'm forgetting. But this is one of those bands that features all those rotating members, and this is flat out vicious. Kind of similar to Oathbreaker's debut, but I think this is even more dissonant, more snarling, more ugly. The production here is caustic. It is so damn loud, the guitars are so damn distorted, and dissonance. Take 3 shots right there. It's kind of similar to Nails in terms of like the overall sound, where it is just overwhelmingly heavy, but it's so DB oriented and very punk and hardcore oriented that it really reminds me a lot of recent output from Integrity. And it's really cool to hear them mingle hardcore riffs, those big chuggy ones, with really dissonant blackened riffs, especially on Serpent's Whisper. The melodies mingle together to form this just really caustic but kind of tuneful sound. And then the sliding riffs on the opening to Father of Greed, it's just disgusting. But when you get down to the song Swallowing Nails, that is just groove and hatred. This is such a massive sounding release, and again, this is their lone full length. I don't know if this band technically exists anymore, but all those bands are busy with other projects within the Church of Ra collective. So yeah, they get kind of busy with other stuff, but I really hope they get back to this. Revisiting this album was a lot of fun, and God, man, it's just such a massive, ugly album. Overall, I'd say this is very comparable to a band like Martyrdot too. Like, they kind of have that same sound, except maybe less of the melodic death metal riffs that occasionally pop up in Martyrdot's work. I really hope they get back to this though. This is a flat-out killer release. It is non-stop walls of noise, but there's really cool melodies in there, and that punk backbone to it is just, ugh, heavier than hell. So yeah, pretty much if you like black and hardcore and crust, this is pretty much it, and hopefully this is as heavy as it gets, because this is pretty fucking gnarly. So yeah, check it out. Glorior Belli, The Great Southern Darkness. This is the 4th album from this French blackened southern metal / stoner metal band. I guess you can throw in Sludge too. It's kind of in that realm. They started off as more of a black metal band, just flat out, and then they slowly shifted to again, blackened stoner metal, sludge metal, southern metal, and this is a very, very strange mix of all those things. It's quite an odd listen. Pretty much if you've ever wondered what Darkthrone would sound like if they were from NOLA, this might be pretty damn close. When you hear the mix of black metal riffing and sliding blues melodies mixed in with They Call Me Black Devil, man, it just feels so odd, but it works so well in here. The vocals go from very raw, throaty screams to bluesy crooning. It almost feels like Blacker Sabbath in some spots, or Blackened Sabbath. I don't know. It feels very strange, but again, it kind of works. You have a lot of dark styles just in terms of like mood and ambience working together to form one dark style that is just kind of strange, but again, it kind of works. These songs kind of careen between the styles a lot, especially Negative Incarnate and Bring It Down the Cosmic Scheme. There's a lot of stoner metal riffs mixed in with black metal riffs, and you kind of get that like warm riffing and tone and feel versus cold and dissonant, and it kind of mingles in one song to create a very temperate zone, I guess. I don't know. This whole thing's very confusing, but very engaging, and I really get into it. And I had to keep reminding myself that this band was from France, because legit, they're so like attached to that southern sludge sound, you know, from the US, that it really does sound like they could be from there. But I have to say, one of my favorite tracks there was the instrumental Per Nox Regna. That one just pretty much brings tons of just great riffs. There's a killer melody that carries it. It has one of the biggest hooks in the entire album. I really don't know how to describe this. I would just say you have to kind of listen to it. I've never jammed their earlier stuff, so I don't know much about their earlier black metal material, but I know this stuff is pretty damn wild, and I really dug it. I hadn't listened to this in years, and coming back to it, this definitely sounds way more fresh and interesting to me. You really don't hear this kind of fusion very often, and it's done really well in here. So yeah, I recommend checking this out. Again, I don't know much about this band outside of this album, but I know this album is pretty damn good, and you should check it out. Downfall of Gaia. Aeon unveils the throne of Decay. This is the third album from this German, blackened, post-metal, sludge metal, and occasionally crust punk band. Again, another blend of a lot of different things on here, but I think post-metal really kind of comes on this because this album is very much about atmosphere. You have loads of cavernous vocals, dissonant fucking everything on here. You occasionally get some big chuggy riffs on here, but this is mostly about creating that, you know, cold, dissonant atmosphere because this sounds like it was recorded inside of a giant cave. This is a very dark, somber listen, but lots of cool tempo shifts. Like, you can be going funeral doom slow and then break into blast beats and kind of give you that, like, off-kilter incantation feel, except blackened. Loads of ambience, especially in terms of, like, tremolo riffing. I would say parts kind of lean on black gaze a little bit, but I really wasn't put off by it because it did contribute to the atmosphere, and they didn't always just lay on that tremolo. They did break into some big, like, sludgy riffs or a big doom metal breakdown on here. But, man, these guys are merciless with the fucking feedback. Like, there were points where I had to turn this down, otherwise I was afraid I wasn't going to hear anything ever again. But overall, it's a really cool album, and I kind of like the post-metal elements mixed with those sludge elements. It's like I Hate God and Neurosis, except they're doing black metal. I kind of want to hear that now. But especially the song Whispers of Aeon, that song really just kind of captures that entire vibe. Especially the weird ambient section in the middle of that song. I don't know, like something about everything dropping out. It kind of just gives this cold, empty fucking, you know, void of anything positive, really. Really solid listen. This is, again, another band where this is the only thing I own by them, but it's one of those bands I know I need to get more after going back to this because I hadn't revisited it in a while, because a lot of music to listen to here. But yeah, if you like post-metal and sludge metal and all things kind of unpleasant and dreary, that is definitely this album. Strongly recommend checking it out. I definitely want to check out more of their stuff in the future now that I've revisited this, and yeah, check it out. Wolf King, Loyal to the Soil. This is the debut full-length from this California-based black and hardcore act, and this is a band I'm very familiar with. I've seen them at least 3 times now, and they always put on a killer show. And these guys, I don't know, it's more about the ambiance, at least on this album, in terms of the black metal elements, but these guys bring the hardcore right out front. The vocals are definitely more along the lines of like black metal shrieks, but the guitarist also backs up with some really low, almost kind of puked vocals. Like, I don't know, they're pretty heavy, and then watching him do them, it looks like he is about to throw up every time he says something. This is kind of like Blackened Converge, and the production definitely screams Converge as well, especially the drums. The drums sound so goddamn huge on this. Now, we actually reviewed their last album, The Path of Wrath, not too long ago. Actually, no, it was a long time ago. It was back when it was snowing, which it's almost back to when it's snowing. Anyway, we reviewed it, and it was really solid, and it definitely pushed more towards the black metal side than this one, but this definitely still has a lot of black metal elements. I absolutely love the song Hail the Ash. That is such a ballsy opener, and God, the guitar riffs are so damn catchy. These guys like big riffs. It's not all about ambiance on here, though there is plenty of it, but if you like your hardcore with giant riffs, this band right here. And of course, big groovy headbanging breakdowns. But again, with that sort of black metal sort of atmosphere behind it. This is an absolutely killer release. I strongly recommend their new one too. Actually, I recommend literally all their stuff because I own it and I thoroughly enjoy jamming it. But if you're gonna start somewhere, this is not a bad place to start because this album is just hostile as hell and riff fucking city. So yeah, definitely check this one out. Panopticon, Autumn Eternal. This is the 6th album from this one-man blackened folk metal, I guess. Folk metal is a huge part of this. This might actually be more close to just black metal, but the folk metal inclusion and the fact that it's US folk. It's not European folk music that really is the predominant thing on here. It's, you know, US folk, like kind of like, I guess you could say like bluegrass. And this has some great nature themes that almost kind of like Wolves in the Throne Room, like Cascadian communing with nature. But he's from Kentucky, and well, they have mountains too, and those mountains are also beautiful. So it has all of that sort of feel to it, and God, the music on here is fucking beautiful. The thing that I really love about this is at no point does this feel sinister or evil. It feels just beautiful and lush and layered. The end of the song Into the North Woods alone just gives me chills because it's so goddamn pretty. There's lots of interesting elements all over the place, extra instrumentation with, you know, sliding kind of like bluesy guitars and strings in the Wind's Farewell, which is gorgeous, much like everything on here. The production here is absolutely fantastic. The drums sound a little bit off, but honestly, everything else sounded so on, I didn't give a shit after a certain point. And again, it's interesting that none of this feels like dark or oppressive. It all feels very like soaring and triumphant. There are some like post-metal elements in Oaks Ablaze that I think are really cool, like, you know, a lot of like spacey atmosphere, but most of this is just like kind of an interesting commune with nature, and it feels very emotional. Like this all feels like it came from the heart. Like this is almost like a folky version of Enslaved in some way, but, you know, less space Viking, more I walked outside and I saw the mist in the mountains and it looked pretty cool, so I wrote a song about it. That is kind of a cool vibe that I can get into. Now, I got into these guys around the album before this, Roads to the North, and while I liked that one, this is the one that really connected with me, and sadly, those are the only albums I own, so I need to eventually correct that, because this band is fucking awesome, and I can only imagine they got better, so I have to check out their more recent releases. But yeah, if you've never jammed Panopticon, I strongly recommend it. This is just such amazing stuff. Like, it will really transport you, and I think that's like a really cool thing about this album. Check it out, it's amazing. Ansed, or Ansed, Ghosts of the Timeless Void. This is their second album, or rather his. This is another one-man project from Germany, and this is blackened, crust, and hardcore, but honestly there's elements of death metal in here, and I would even say flat-out metalcore too. This is kind of an all-over-the-place. It's definitely blackened, but there's a lot of other stuff that comes into play on here. I can't say that the whole album is fucking brutal, but it's not one-dimensional, which is really cool. You got songs like Concrete Veins, which brings out the crusty D beat. It kind of sounds like a blackened version of Dysphere. But you get loads of big hardcore riffing on Unmasking the Imposters and of Gallows and Pyres, especially on Unmasking and Pyres, because that chuggy triplet that opens kind of screams old school Hatebreed, but again with blackened atmosphere, because of course in between all these nasty chugathons there's loads and loads of like ambient tremolo strumming. Some of this really reminds me a lot of early Heaven Shall Burn too. Like, it kind of has their really nasty metalcore attack on there, and the vocals especially. The vocals kind of remind me of their frontman, because that shriek he has is very pronounced as well. I gotta say, for a band described as black and crust too, there are a lot of blast beats on here. Like, this kind of definitely borrows in terms of like black metal's energy, but also like death metal's intensity too. And they're definitely not ones to shy away from breakdowns, especially on Republic of Hatred. This is just a flat out intense listen from start to finish. It is so in your face. It really does not pause to take a breath. It just keeps hitting you. And I love the intensity throughout. It feels just so fucking vicious. And it was cool coming back to this one, because I believe I brought this up in a collection update like when we were still kind of in our infancy, so it's really fun to revisit something from that long ago, which this came out in 2018, and yeah, holy shit, that was a while ago. But yeah, if you like your hardcore with blast beats and dissonant blackened guitars and, I don't know, maybe a touch of metalcore and death metal too. I don't know, if you just like intense music, I think you would probably dig this. I still need to check out more by this band. Again, this is another one where this is the only thing I own by them, because this is the only thing I can find by them. But I definitely want to get more, because again, revisiting it, holy shit, this is just as nasty as I probably said it was way back when I covered it before. So yeah, definitely check this one out. Wolvhammer, The Obsidian Plains. The second album from this band came out in 2011. This is a Minnesota and Washington-based blackened sludge band, which seems like there's a lot of space between those states, because there is. But this is some foul, nasty blackened sludge, as I said before. And again, kind of like that Glorior Belli, it really kind of has that feel of second wave black metal, but it started somewhere in New Orleans. So yeah, that sort of wall of sound, sort of tremolo, very kind of lo-fi production, but it's lo-fi sludgy production because the guitar tone still screams sludge, but they like to use a lot of those blackened tremolos in there. And they love the very raw, cavernous, kind of underproduced vocals, which the vocalist for this band is also the vocalist for Skeleton Witch right now too, which is awesome blackened thrash. Again, this band knows how to mix both of those styles, and they take the darkest aspects of both. It feels so ugly, but it really works. The song Writhe kind of pivots back and forth between black metal ambience, you know, blast beats, tremolo riffs, to big sludgy breakdowns that are kind of crowbar-ish, honestly. And then we get to a song like Ghosts in the Water. It's pretty much just distilled misery. Again, the darkest aspects of both styles kind of coming together. But probably my favorite song on here is the last track, the instrumental, The Sentinels, which is a little bit of a break from the oppressiveness. It's a little bit more anthemic. It has more like catchy, distinct melodies, but it still knows how to just bring you down to the sludgy, blackened depths and remind you that life is shit, but also throw in some cool atmosphere as well to, I don't know, help with that, I guess. My only complaint about this album is the only complaint I had about Downfall of Gaia is merciless fucking feedback. Holy shit, calm that shit down. But other than that, this is a killer album. I own 2 of their other albums that are also killer as well. So yeah, once again, if you are curious as to what Darkthrone or Mayhem would sound like if they, you know, blossomed in NOLA, I would say definitely check this out, even though they are not from NOLA. They're from Wisconsin and Washington at the same time. But either way, check this out. It's a badass band, badass album. Pilori A Nos Morts. It's the debut album from this French blackened, let's see, grind, crust, hardcore. Might as well throw in power violence too. Everything in this is in French, so I'm not going to bother with song titles because I'll have to apologize to all French-speaking nations once again because I suck. But I can definitely tell you that this album is only 23 minutes long and it is hyper violent. This is like blackened, rotten sound or nails. Like pretty much, yeah, combine those two and black metal, you will get this album. There are songs on here that aren't even a minute that pretty much pack in all the violence that they possibly can and just continue to whoop your ass. This is all blast beats, distorted vocals, and a guitar tone that is kind of HM2-ish. Like it definitely has like that nails, rotten sound sort of sound. So yeah, I guess that's kind of HM2, but it's also like even more distorted. But in between those songs, of course, you have more ambient moments, but it's not pleasant ambience. There's nothing pleasant about this. This is a short, violent listen. And I don't know, like listening to it, it's kind of the perfect combination of anger and despair. So yeah, this isn't happy feel-good music, but it is fast and aggressive. So I mean, you can definitely headbang to it. It's just if you probably focused a lot on the atmosphere or understood the lyrics, which are all in French, more than likely, because all the song titles are, it would probably be bleak and depressing and, of course, loaded with contempt for everything. But riff-wise, this definitely goes across the gamut. Like, you get big chuggy grooves, like hardcore breakdowns, blackened tremolos, death metal riffing, a little bit of, like, death grind in there, too. It's pretty much, like, everything heavy all the time for, again, 23 minutes, but it is a killer listen. And this is technically a full length. I have EPs that are longer than this, but I don't give a shit because front to back, this is just a brutal, vicious album. And this was a pandemic buy. Like, this was me being stuck at my house and with too much time on my hands watching YouTube, and I jammed their album. I believe it was on Gore Grinder's channel, and I ended up buying it right away. And yeah, no buyer's regret there. This is a flat out awesome album. Again, very much like Nails and Rotten Sound and black metal. And if that sounds like it's going to be your thing, well, you listen to a lot of intense shit, and this is one more thing you should own. So check it out. And finally, we have Churchburn, Awaiting the Coffins. Their debut album came out in 2014. This is a New York-based / Rhode Island-based blackened sludge metal band. We just reviewed their new album. Holy shit, go get that. And go get this one while you're at it because it's also awesome. This band features ex-members of Grief and Vital Remains, and holy shit, this band is so goddamn heavy. The guitar tone on this is heavy enough to destroy the mountain that Crowbar built. It's so dense and thick, and then you couple that with the massive bass tone and the fact that the vocals are all very blackened, very shrieked and kind of distorted and staticky. This whole album is a great mix of brutal and melodic, surprisingly. The lead work on here is always very tuneful, and that was kind of a thing we echoed in the last one. Same thing here, except I think this one is maybe a little bit more melodic because there's a lot of cool guitar harmonies on here too. Like, again, very comparable to Crowbar, except with black metal in it. This album is slow, dark, and brooding across the board, but again, not without spots of melody. Come Forth the Swarm, the lead into that is absolutely gorgeous. But even despite all that melodic offering that's on here, I would say this almost pushes the level of heaviness. Like, the guitar tone, again, is just fucking ridiculous. And across the board, all these songs are really good on here. They're very well constructed. There's loads of dynamics. And this was just their first album. They have a couple more. And for me, this band was special. This was the first band I ever saw at MDF in 2019, my first time there. They started the show, and holy shit, they were heavy as fuck. I went out and I got both their albums right from them, and do not regret this purchase. I strongly recommend all their albums. Literally, just go get all their shit and say goodbye to your eardrums, because you have to play it loud, because this deserves to be played loud because it's so goddamn heavy and evil. So yeah, definitely check this band out. Again, all their shit, not just this one. Churchburn's amazing. Go get their shit. All right, that knocks out another one of these. I have no idea what I'm gonna do next in terms of underrated albums. I don't know. There's a lot of different avenues to pursue. Haven't done a flat out death metal or thrash metal one in a while. Those are always fun. So, I don't know, it's kind of up in the air, but I definitely want to do more because these are fun to go through, and I gotta get reacquainted with some stuff I hadn't listened to in a while. Either way, I'm definitely gonna do more of these in the future, and, you know, of course, we're gonna work on that Entombed ranking, which, looking for maybe a late December recording, so we might be able to kick off the new year with that. So yeah, plenty of stuff coming, but for now, I will say, if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, and if you are new to the channel, subscribe, because we do stuff like this all the time. We are also on Patreon. If you would like to help us out, there will be a link down below. We also still have shirts for sale. If you would like one, hit us up on thrallsofmetal@gmail.com. Send us a message, put shirts in it, and we will get back to you and hopefully sell you a shirt. We're looking at, you know, expanding the Thralls merch. We're just trying to figure out what we want to do next. So if you guys would like to give us some input, we would love to hear what you guys would like, because well, we're hoping you'll buy it. And I wouldn't trust our judgment. We're fucking terrible at that. So yeah, if you could drop some hints down in the comments, that'd be great. And as always, thank you guys very much for watching. You guys keep us going. You are the wind beneath our blackened wings. So with that, I thank you all once again very much, and we will catch you later.